Welcome you to Space Matters
Gadigal country. This is our first one of doing this series.
I've also got some Sharpies.
Creative space for apartments. And we call it Art Hole, so it's like asshole, but it's in a basement. Ended up being 10 years. It looks like that.
Space causes belonging, where you can be yourself. Go like this on the calculator, match the colour of the walls.
Hang out and talk about sustainability and environment. And the tagline for it, Space Matters. Of course, we all know space matters.
Good evening, everyone. I would love it if you could come and take a seat, bring alcohol, bring food, bring a smile, bring some good energy. Right, the thinking that created so many of the challenges we have right now, whether in spaces, the way that we connect, the way that we live, the way that we play, the way that we create together and make sense of meaning, that thinking will not be the thinking that solves those challenges. We need to come at it from a new space, not only in the way we think, but the way we engage, the way we work and behave and play, which is why it's so exciting to be here tonight with you and welcome you to Space Matters as we explore this wonderful concept of creativity, connection, and the spaces that make that happen. And I like to think around the spaces that bring those serendipitous moments to the surface, and before you know it, good things are happening, and it's this wonderful environment that are around us. So we're here to celebrate that a little bit tonight and explore it as well. So before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the people, I want to acknowledge Darkinjung country, I got that right, the Gadigal people in Darkinjung country. And I've said another one today, I just want to make sure I got it right, okay? And when we do this as well, look, I'm from, got a confession, I'm from Hobart. Grew up in Tasmania, okay? Before it was cool, okay? Back in the day, before the Mona Gallery, the only reason new people went down there was if their family's on the run from the police or something, or in witness protection, okay? Before it was cool, but every time I go back and visit my family, you get out at the airport and you walk across the tarmac, you step outside, and I stand there, and it's that moment sort of hits you, and I feel like I'm home. And when I think around that connection to country, I sort of think that's my best sense of that, but I know it goes so much deeper than that as well. And maybe the other one is I swim in the ocean every day. When you dive into the ocean, just like something changes in my piece. When I think around this sort of connection to country, I think what an amazing thing, and I only scrape the surface of what that is. So when we think around also connection, thanking the people who came here before us for their commitment to creativity, to innovation, to storytelling and impact, all the things we're talking about tonight. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. Toilets just over through here and just through that door. They're pretty easy to find. And also, Mikey is giving us his wonderful space. So I'm going to ask Mikey up. Now, what I've known many, many times, there's some things which can happen. There is, which I don't want to say, I don't want to see the half clap, okay? Now the half clap is, or the crap clap, people go like this, and I'll just put this down I'll hang on to it. Someone comes up, and then someone in the audience goes, oh shit, and someone does it, half a clap, and someone else goes, oh, do I clap? And there's these little pockets of shit going on all over, okay? Nobody really makes an effort, so what I think, if we're going to invite people up, there's going to be 3 different speakers tonight, and Mikey, you make them feel welcome, you want them to walk on the stage to a rapturous round of applause, enthusiasm, even some
Do I need this?
Yeah, you do.
Use the thing? Okay, use the thing. Oh, because you're recording of it. Oh, of course. All right, use the thing. All right. Hi, everybody. Obviously want to pay my respects as well to this place. Gadigal country. Darkinjung, I believe, is further north from here.
That's my area. I live on Darkinjung country.
That's okay.
So my apologies.
No, all good.
Coming out right, yeah.
All good. Just that connection here. We have this giant mural on the back of the building. Many of you will have seen it. Some of you came through the front door today. James came to the front. But on your way out, if you can take a time to go at the back and spend a little bit of time with the huge mural we've got painted on the back of the building. When we were thinking of talking about space and placemaking. When we were moving upstairs from this area upstairs, thanks to James, you might hear a backstory about that later. That mural was being painted at the same time we were moving upstairs. So it was like this calling, and a beam out from the universe saying, "You will acknowledge in this way, this place." And now our building is marked with that. So I think it's really special to have that experience in a place that's been completely colonized, to spend a little bit of time with that artwork. And we then formed a friendship with Jason and Maddie and the other artists, Lucy and Dennis. But especially Jason, and Jason gifted us some work that's in our boardroom. He's just had a baby, so I've had a lot of trouble getting hold of him lately. I'd love to invite him back here with his wife Maddie. The little baby Rainbow is her name, so that's amazing. But yeah, I just think that it's really important to connect and have those relationships and connections to place and the people of that place. And I think in doing that, you get a lot more connection to this place. So as a Canadian of Chinese descent, I think it's given me a lot to really learn about the history and the culture of Australia here, and that history goes way further back than 200 odd years ago and stuff. So I encourage you all to do that and to make your own acknowledgement story if you can. And my little plug is we're going to start doing that. We're going to support people do that, create this space as a place to learn to do that, to have your own story around that, your own connection, so that when you have the chance to do Acknowledge Country, you bring something of yourself to it as well. So it's something we're up to here. Impact Story Lab, welcome to the place. He said 2 minutes. I'm sure I'm already over that. We created this for you. Some of you folks here are residents. Some of you folks here are new to the place. Some of you folks are partners. And people like this man who was put on this event is like a co-creator with so much energy and passion and drive as well. So he deserves a real clap today. Not that half-ass clap. What was that? One more time. Come on. Come on, you guys. Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I really thank Jeremy for holding the space and creating this, and this is our first one of doing this series, okay? And it's monthly for a little while, but it's important to celebrate the fact we have these opportunities. James has so much knowledge to share on that. So does Madeleine, okay? And and of course, we're here other stories today too, but from my experience. So, and Ben, placemaking as well too. So I'm really looking forward to hearing their knowledge tonight and implying that here. So that's why I'm here to do that. And that's why we're creating the lab. This is a place for all of you to create here too, and the invitation is there to do that.
Alright, and you applaud Oscars as well. Now when Jeremy was sharing this idea with me and said he would like to be on, I said, look, can I do some art with everyone? And yes, okay, that got me across the line. Now the reason I love this, when we talk around shifting our thinking, especially thinking around Indigenous culture, art's part of our soul, okay? When we create, different parts of our brain connect with our hands or however we might be doing it. We have these neural pathways that go up our arms into our brain. Different parts of our brain start to connect. It goes down to our heart. So there's a whole ecosystem that shifts inside us when we choose to create. So tonight, just as a little kickoff, but just to make sure our brain's open to new ways of thinking, to hear from our great speakers, we'll do a little artistic activity with you tonight. Now the good thing with this one is it's really easy, but for this activity I need a muse. Who can help me out being my muse? Now, does anyone know what a muse is? Just give me a show of hands. Anyone have a guess? What are you thinking?
Poetry, the literature.
Yeah, an inspiration. Yeah, inspiration. Now, you don't have to stand up here. So essentially a model, you don't have to stand up here with a robe and selective grapes or anything like that in the right spot. But I do need a muse. It's not embarrassing, I promise.
Where are they going to sit?
They're going to stand up here, okay? They're going to stand up here. And
I'm going to volunteer.
All right, thank you, Jared. All right, now back in the day, I'll get to stand up here. Back in the day when I studied art and design, mostly art, tiny bit of design, it was a little bit different back then to what it is now. We used to do these continuous line portraits. So that means you look at the person. I'll get you to turn face on. You look at the person. Three-quarter profile is quite good actually, all right? He's done this before, right? So Jeremy's going to pull his blue still. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to look at Jeremy, and I'm going to draw him, but at no stage do I ever take my pen off the page, okay? At no stage do I ever take my pen off the page, right? So always start with this area, then we sort of work out, all right? So I'm going to go... Alright, let me go back up, got the other eye there. Now, maybe sort of got some bit of a, you got some sort of hair, sort of here. Alright, you got sort of down there, maybe sort of an ear through here. Right. And then we got that nose there, it's going to come up. And there we go. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more, I'm going to put in some eyes here. There's Jeremy, okay? Okay, now, and what I love about this activity, and back when you first year up student, it just got you to loosen up because there's no right or wrong. We're just literally looking at something and just to make marks is one of the most human things we can do, okay? And just to make a mark and leave something of ourselves somewhere else, it's a wonderful thing to do. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, I've counted this out, there's 14 people here, so we should all be able to do this in a pair. What I asked you to do, on the table, I've got a bunch of paper. Now, you might want to fold these over and different things. I've also got some Sharpies, and if you want to be a little bit...
I'm adding a necessary.
What is it? But it's an inside.
I just want to do this because what happens when we draw? Our brain shifts as well, and I think a brain shift and opening it up to look at things a little bit differently is a really nice kickstart into what we're going to be hearing tonight as well. And just remember, creativity, speaking around the spaces we have, it comes in so many different forms. It should be called our creativities, okay? And we all have multiple creative intelligences, and the ability to make a mark is what's human and helps us connect as well. So thank you for playing along with that. I really appreciate it. Now, James, I'm going to ask you to come up. And look, we know how this works. We're going to make James feel like, yeah, he's so welcome. And give him a huge round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name's James. I'm the co-founder and director of BrandX. So, in a nutshell, we provide affordable space for artists. We've been doing this since 2005, so in your maths, that's 21 years. As of July this year, we're open our 19th venue. Our venues are semi-permanent. It comes from a motivation in regard to the way in which buildings are treated and used and glorified in capitalist societies. They're trophies. They don't have to be useful, and quite often they are empty. So we partner with private and public sector to create those empty spaces into artist studios, so artists have space to work and produce and contribute to society. So I just thought I'd pull together a couple of slides of the spaces that we've used. Essentially, it all started with Queen Street Studio, which essentially is, 2005. We took on a commercial lease only because the rehearsal studio that I used to work in as a theatre director closed for redevelopment. It was called the Flour Mill in Newtown. It is now a creative space for apartments. And so instead of whinging about it, we actually decided to bite the bullet and do a commercial lease. And it was a really, our lawyers said, you're going to go broke. We cried in a car. It lasted for 4 years. We walked away with around about 40K in profit. Well done. It was fine. We actually thought we'd use the space. See, it's low res because in 2005 we didn't have high res phones, by the way. We thought actually we would use this for our own practice, but in actual fact we facilitated other artists using those spaces. And that's the beginning of the story. Because we were there, Fraser Property Australia and Sekisui House came to us and said, we have just inherited a really, really problematic site called Carlton United Breweries on Broadway. And we need to partner with a arts organisation that's community focused and for you to make it better so that people don't stop the DAs going through. So we took on 3 warehouses and for however many years, 3 years, thousands of artists went through there. So if you're old enough, you probably went to an event there maybe, or you might have actually been one of our resident artists. It was for performing, visual arts, event space, blah, blah, blah. That closed and then they built Spice Alley. We then took on an empty space in Surrey Hills and experimented with retail. There's a couple of other stories before that, but this is just fast tracking it through. We called it Art Hole, so it's like arsehole, but it's in a basement. It was about trying to find ways in which artists could break out of the gallery and actually kind of engage with artists. We thought that was a really interesting idea. Stupid idea because retail actually means that you're open 7 days, really long hours. And also artists had to then deal with rejection immediately, as retail does. But I love retail in regard to how it engages and gives belonging to a general public. But over the time, so we would give these spaces away for free to artists for like 6-month residencies where they experiment with creating an entire universe of retail to sell their products. We eventually found a huge cohort of people who were really cheeky, as in artists, really cheeky, really interested in playing that space. But it took us right to the end to be able to find those. But it initiated another relationship with Fraser Property Australia. And they came back to us and said, oh, you're playing in retail? Will you take 3,000 square metres in our new shopping centre on Broadway, so central, because we have food court here that we take a % off. Of course, that's how it works. You rent and a %. But if no one's coming up those stairs, I can't get any money for it. 3,000 square metres. So we created event spaces, visual art studios, retail, the works. And it was only meant to be for a year, so that's now where Palace Cinemas is. So it was while the Palace Cinema DA was going through. They couldn't open the whole shopping centre until that happened. At the same time, Inner West, what was it called? Marrickville Council contacted us. Tempe Jets Sports Club down at Tempe Jets under the flight path. The tenant had left. It became a gay beat, weirdly enough, and so they wanted us to take us over. It was only ever meant to be for 6 months. Ended up being 10 years. It became a centre for experimental sound and contemporary music, but more experimental sound. So you might have gone to a gig there, but you're not allowed to have gone to that gig because we weren't allowed to actually do gigs. But there was a shit ton of gigs there. Huge community of people. What I'm trying to say here is that if you give space, you give belonging. Okay? So that's why I found pictures with people in it. So then we were tapped on the shoulder by TWT property developers who were from China. They, again, contentious site, 3 blocks, gave it to us for free. So 1 year. We closed it in December. So that's 11 years. Probably facilitated space for artists to work around about like maybe 700, 800 people. Retail, everything. Retail, food and bev, visual arts, business, da-da-da. So when we say affordable, I'm saying like $100 a week rent and all your expenses paid. So no risk, you can just focus on what you're doing, innovate, but in the same instance, you're also giving the St. Leonard's community, which is in St. Leonard's, moment of pride. Look, they all came. And then we put like acrobats on the fucking wall. But we also like commissioned huge sculptures and everything like that, because when you put artists in space, they're curious. They're not lazy. Then we created a cafe because we needed like a point of reference, X and Co. And it was raising money for the arts precinct, essentially, so we could commission artists and that kind of stuff. It ended up being a point where people from St Leonard's came and could relax, and we were the first arty thing, and like we were queer, and then people came out and became amazing. It only lasted 18 months because, again, food and beverage, it's 18 hours days, 6 days a week, it's bad. But it was amazing. Then we scored a tender with East Sydney Community Arts Centre that's still going at the moment, meaning that we provide services to the City of Sydney, which is critical services, which is providing accessible and affordable workspace for performing artists. We then created a program called Flying Nun, which is currently in season 10. So experimental weird shit, $25 tickets if you want to see contemporary weird shit, $25 tickets. So it's accessible for the audience, but also the artist gets to make all the money back, and then we just facilitate them. Works from Flying Nun now appear in Griffin, Sydney Festival, go to Edinburgh. People shop for weird shit in this venue because no one else is taking the risk. City of Sydney Creative Studios is current, so that was a tender we won. So that's in Bathurst Street and Pitt. 36 studios for visual arts, film, music, performing arts, and also creative business. So this is the city's version of how they solve a space crisis for artists. We won the tender because we know how to do it, but also we're artists ourselves. So I've got a team of 15. They're all practicing artists. So everyone who walks through the door has the empathy required to be able to have a safe space. And here's a secret. We open Marrickville Town Hall basement in July. So we just won a tender, which will be 10 years. It'll be a live music space, ex-library. It looks like that at the moment. Who knows what it's going to be? I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to completely change the live music ecosystem. It's very focused on profit. We're a not-for-profit, we're a charity. So we just need to keep the lights on, and then we reinvest in the artists, and we reinvest in residencies, and we make sure that artists are central to everything we do, which in turn then makes work that is profoundly different to what you see in the mainstream. That's the story. Thank you for having me.
I've got one quick question. So you get these spaces which are shells, and I've heard words such as, you know, empathy, connection, accessibility. You back people, connection. What's the piece that maybe does connect them, that you have the ability to create these amazing spaces in whatever shell you get to some extent? Or there's something more than just, you know, a building?
Yeah. Our secret is that, and I say this to my staff all the time, is that we don't own or author, we just facilitate. So it's giving blank canvas and allowing people to own that, and for them to then find what it's going to be. So it's taking a risk in things that otherwise people find too scary to take risk in. But by doing so, you're giving people permission to own and to author for themselves, and then they create authenticity because there's no sense of people looking over their shoulder or critique, or you have to be successful. So removing success means people have freedom, which means people have the opportunity to experiment. Removing financial barriers means that they don't have any implications for things that go south.
All right. Thank you. A round of applause, please. A little bit better, okay. Yeah. Well, what I might do, I'm going to save the questions to the end.
Gratitude, thanks.
Oh, okay, all right. Gratitude, thanks. I'll allow that. Yeah.
So, James, you may not be aware, but as a community I had, and at your level 23, 2013, we were holding events. And would you believe...
what event?
A number of events. It was a series of events. It was Mindful in May. No, it wasn't Mindful in May. That's actually a different brand. Mind Foods. And then we got a decent assist from Mind Foods magazine. But that was a whole separate saga. But we did an event with OpenShed, Car Next Door, and Airbnb pretended to be an impact company at that time. But we did a number of different events at that place. So
The event space.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, okay. I love how Airbnb pretended to be a, okay, right, those were the days. Now look, we've done this once, we've got 2 more rounds of applause. Madeleine, we'd love for you to come up to the stage and please make her feel absolutely welcome.
Thank you. Everything I was planning to say, I've pretty much changed. Listening to James. So, I first met James 33 years ago when we were 18, believe it or not. And, I know, pretty cool. And I was thinking about why we're cool, right? And as you were talking, and I think it's an Adelaide thing too. So we grew up in Adelaide, and Adelaide, whatever shithole people think it is, it does, I think, the world's best arts festival, and I've been to lots all over the world, right? And so I remember being 8 years old and my mum taking me to Indonesian shadow puppetry at the festival and being like, whoa, you can tell stories like that, like far out. So I remember thinking that you could bring people together and you could do magical things and you could try stuff and do stuff that nobody had ever done before. That was like my feeling of it. So James was just as cool and magical then as he is now, and would not be creating the spaces that you do without that being who you are. And I think the thing you said about space causes belonging. So firstly, I want to let you know that this is a safe space and you can be yourself. So if you find yourself sitting in listening to people talk mode, just notice, are you in that this is what I do, this is the way I sit? I want you to take your shoes off if you want to. I want you to take a breath. I want you to put your feet up on the couch, sit on the floor, do whatever you need to do to be fully in this space, not at a talk, because this is a safe space where you can be yourself. Pardon? Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. Go for it. And if they reek, I have a hypersense of smell and I'll tell you. So what I want to talk about is that space is only caused when people are free to be in the space. That's the way I want to say that. Space is only caused when people are free to be in the space. Otherwise, it's a building or it's even a set of rules, maybe even a community, but it still doesn't mean there's space and that people can actually be themselves. So around the time that I saw the Indonesian shadow puppetry, when other kids were playing things like, I don't know, what do you play as imagination games when you're a kid? Schools, mums and dads, superheroes, doctors and nurses, thank you, Ben. There's always one. And I used to play businesses. And I had a calculator and a stapler and a pile of paper and, I would go like this on the calculator and I would staple things together and I would answer the phone and say, hello, Wonderverse, Madeleine speaking. And I imagined a world of wonder where the whole universe and all the people in all the universe could come together and be really happy. And I've been imagining that since I was 8. And so when I got diagnosed autistic ADHD, and so did all my family, and I started to deal with the degree to which the world doesn't work for most people. In fact, most of us can't leave the house because of who we are and our stories and our experiences and our biology and our genders and our races. Like, it's not actually safe for most of us to leave the house. So I started to think about what would it take to have all the world and all the people in all of the universe come together and be really happy. So that's what I do with Wonderverse. And I started to go, how do I say that? You know, James, they're going to you, how do you do that? Why is it not just a building or something like that? So I started to distill it, and I went, there's a few principles that I have. One is, when you allow people to be, magic happens. And I have tested that over and over and over and over again. And when I say magic, what I mean is things that you think could never disappear. Like, I'm no good at social situations and I'm not very good at talking people. Or I'm not creative. Or I'm not good in relationships. You know, those kind of things that you live with in your whole life that you just think, well, that's the way I am, and I'll just adapt. Actually, those things can disappear. And at the same time, when I say magic, I mean things that you never thought could come into existence, like a rabbit out the hat, can come into existence. So you can be creative when that's not a conversation that you've ever had about yourself, or something you've said about yourself. Or you can lead when you've always been like, well, all my years at school at university made it very clear that I'm not a leader. Or you can actually authentically be yourself. So when you allow people to be, magic happens. And what we do at Wonderverse is we do a lot of training and workshops and consultancy, but we also curate spaces. And by curate, I mean, I use that word really deliberately. It's like a piece of art for me. It's, we curate the way it feels to be in that space. We curate the way, the choice and control people have about the way that they can participate and not participate. We also curate what happens in that space. And in the last year, I did a project called the Create Space Arts Initiative, and I used federal funding from the Department of Social Services, and I did an arts project with it, which is, you know, probably not what you should do, but that's like, that's what I did. So we did some extraordinary things. So I had conversations with people like the Museum of Contemporary Art, and whilst they'd been beginning in a conversation about what is it to create a space that includes everyone, they'd relegated those people to one room on one floor of the building. So people were separated and segregated. And, you know, my second principle is, what's the point unless all neurotypes can work and play together? Like, what are we going to do? Not leave the house? So I had a conversation with them and said, I'm not coming unless you give me the whole MCA and outside. And they said yes. And then we curated the space and trained all the people with Beck McCash, and made choices about the way people were within the space. And then and then we invited everyone, not people with disability, not neurodivergent people, everybody to come to this event. And their most successful family event up until that point was 600 people. And the day that we did it was 3,791. And it was wild, right? It was wild. And what I created with them was, it's kind of similar to what James does, but with a different bent. But I said, you know, you go to the MCA. Has anyone never been to the MCA, to the Museum of Contemporary Art? It's very white, it's very pristine, it feels kind of sacred. You know, like you've got to be wealthy, basically, and match the colour of the walls to attend. In dress and skin tone. And I said, but that's not where people engage with art, Simon, where they engage with it is from the very beginning. And probably all of us at some point remember someone saying to us, stop drawing on the wall, or why did you get texture on the table, or why did you, because you drew freely and with abandon. So the event that we created, people drew on the walls, people drew on the floor, people drew on circular quay, on the cement out there, they drew on the glass up the stairwell. They drew everywhere, and they got to own the space as theirs and be free to be themselves. So that's one example, and I think the only other thing, this is the fancy thing we say, but whatever. Don't ask me to do that, I'm neurodivergent. We're going to be here for hours, man. Okay, so this is some of the things that I've done, okay, in curating space. So this is, and by the way, it also means training and facilitation and a bunch of other things, but this is at the Melbourne Museum, where for the first time the Melbourne International Comedy Festival and the Melbourne Museum came together, and we did an after dark evening event for over 18s, and it was called Cracked Up, and we had real tours of the museum with actual anthropologists and people, proper people, and then we had comedians doing fake tours of the museum, and we did a fake school excursion and many other things, and this person just mimed all night as an egg. This is at Western Sydney International Airport, training all of their staff in neuro-inclusion. All of it's done through Lego Play. I'm a trained Lego Play agent. So, I know, that's cool, isn't it? James just laughed. It's a cool thing to say. And I use play as a place for people to discover who they are and remember who they are. This is at the Brisbane Powerhouse, where they gave us the whole Brisbane Powerhouse. And we did a silent disco, live song making, all sorts of crazy stuff. This is at Sydney Dance Company, where they gave us the whole of Sydney Dance Company to work in, and all sorts of people. This is some of the people improvising in pretend mirrors with professional dancers. We only ever hired neurodivergent artists through the whole project. I'm the training consultant at NIDA. NIDA has 40% cohort neurodivergent, and everybody was just for decades dying at NIDA, and they now have a whole program. This is one of the Lego Play events I do, so I have like 2,000 to 3,000, 5,000 people come together and do things like build the future. This is at a school. I live in Western Sydney. I'm a proud Westie. I love being on Durrock country. This is a schools program that I do called Raising Good Humans, and the tagline is, if you don't want your kid to be an asshole, come and do this program. And I train the kids, then the teachers, then the parents and carers. That's more of the... Oh, and this one is My Car Tyre and Auto, which used to be Kmart Tyre and Auto. And they have more apprentices than anyone in Australia. Again, nearly 50% neurodivergent and old school mechanics that have been there for 30 years. And they basically couldn't talk to each other. So I went in and watched them work in the workshops for a whole week at lots of different stores, then wrote a program for their apprentices, the store managers, and the poor guy in the middle that does everything. And ran a program there, all using Lego. So, I think that my 8-year-old dream is not crazy, and I think we can live in a world where everybody can get along and be really happy, and that we have to think of space as the experience in the space and the sense of being free to be yourself as the space, not the building. There you go. And speaking of buildings, I'm about to take this space over.
Alright, well done. Thank you.
I don't know how long that was.
Perfect is how long it was. It was perfect. Okay, look, I just want to ask a question. Like, if we want to think, how can we allow the people we interact with to allow to be, and it's a big question, what do you think? Look, here's a couple of easy things you could do, because magic happens when people are allowed to be. What's a couple of things? Look, this is a couple of things you could do tomorrow.
Well, I have to kind of tell you the opposite way. So by the time a neurodivergent person is 7, they'll have had 40,000 more negative things said to their face.
Yeah.
So those things will be, don't do that, don't move there, that's not how we're doing this, do this, that, like that, okay? So eradicating saying those things is one of the things that you can start with. Don't be an asshole. Yeah, like if someone's not looking at you, don't make the assumption that they're pissed off or they're shy. There could be a million reasons. If someone is struggling to be in the conversation with you, it's got nothing to do with you, likely, unless you're being an asshole. Then it'll have everything to do with you. So I guess not making assumptions about people's behaviour is probably the first thing that you could do. And then the second one would be, when in doubt, be authentic. I feel really uncomfortable right now because you're not looking at me. There's something going on. And then you can go, oh no, I just hate looking at people. And then you're in a real moment.
Right. I think they're great. Thank you. Right. Big round of applause, please. Interesting when you say that around the 40,000 negative things. Both my kids are neurodivergent. My 17-year-old works at a nursery, still at high school. He came home and they said, I'm exactly what they've been looking for. He's been told at school what a pain in the arse he is his whole life. You know what I mean? So for him to come and they said, you're exactly what we want, the customers love you, and like he's been walking on cloud 9 since that one positive thing. And you know, so I just think it's a really nice thing to think around those things as well. So thank you. Now, last but not least, okay, now we have Ben to come up and join us. Please make him feel welcome like you've never made someone feel welcome before.
Jerry, come back, because I'm going to do something crazy. I've just been reflecting on the wonderful conversation and sharing from... Jerry, come back.
Yeah.
I want to go with my slides in reverse. I know.
So you go all the way.
Oh, but that's a reveal. Okay, well, how do I do it?
Just have to do it really quickly.
Okay, so good. How do I go back?
Back. Yeah,
That one.
That one.
Yeah, okay, cool. Hey. Hello. My name is Ben Ward, and as I stand here on Gadigal land, struggling with massive imposter syndrome because of the amazing presentations by James and Madeleine, who have made their careers and lives passionately out of doing what they do and what comes from their heart. And Brand X, Wonderverse, I can tell as many stories about being in your spaces without you even realizing. Seriously, I think we did 10 GreenUps in Brand X spaces, so we'll get to that. Anyway, so why am I here? I'm here because I share a desk with Jerry, so he tapped me on the shoulder. But way back, a long time ago, before Facebook, before MySpace, before LinkedIn, when people didn't know how to connect, we used to connect in venues, a space, the word I learned, third spaces. Your work is the first space, well, your home is the first space, your work is the second space, and the third space is everything else essentially that matters. Sports clubs, libraries, cafes. And I was working in IT, arguably in the music industry, having a lot of fun, lots of parties, but something was missing. I decided to start a small bar. The bones of that is a place called the Falconer, which if you are old enough or grubby enough, you might also know as Alexander's, which was the 24-hour cafe underneath, it's had many names then, but Universal nightclub on Oxford Street. It was a dirty hole in the wall, and it closed down. And me and a couple of bag mates thought, let's grab this and turn it into Sydney's first small bar. We take that, mainly that label, mainly because the city gave it to us. They were desperate to give it to someone. We've always been friends with the city. Anyway, whilst running that venue, this bunch of people used to come in a lot, and I won't name them, but they were cool cats, did various things. And they come in every Wednesday and like hang out and talk about sustainability and the environment and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like bringing them coffees and beers and listening in the conversation, going, I love this, I want this. And we got this idea that we would start a kind of like just get all the Sydney's sustainability people together. So we started this, we rebooted this idea, like a kind of environmental drinks. There was one that existed before, but it was pretty bloody boring. Anyway, that was the first GreenUps in my cafe bar, the Falconer, and it was a raging success. 200 people turned up to try and get into a capacity venue 50 space. It was a bit awkward, spilling onto the street, using the laneway down the road. Anyway, clearly onto a good thing. I loved the night, it was a great success, but we couldn't, like it was from day one, it was obvious that we couldn't keep the GreenUps at the Falconer. I wanted to be part of this, but I couldn't wholesale give, like I was running a new bar at the time. Anyway, got this crazy idea, we'll keep it going. The only way I can stay part of this is it can't just go to some other venue. We'll put it in a different space every month. It was a harebrained idea, God knows why I thought it would be easy to do, but anyway, long story short, for about 15 years, this event moved from venue to venue, diverse range of spaces. We were here in the early hub days. We were in libraries, we were in, I think the next one, community gardens, and every month somewhere new. And so every month we had a theme. Every month we had a new set of stakeholders that would come and kind of share the load and share the love and bring their knowledge and inspiration to the night. I was an imposter, I think I've used the word already, just a sponge, learning all this new wonderful information, learning about community gardening, learning regenerative agriculture, learning about renewable energy back when no one was talking about it. We're learning about, placemaking, energy, water, waste. We did all these themes, different venues, and the space was such an instrumental part of the success and of the whole GreenUps journey. And we didn't always get it right. We really, really didn't. Energy in, energy out. But really, over the life of the project, we did over 100 events, one every month. Again, like I say, always in a different spot, month to month. We did circle back on a few. It wasn't like we never went back, but the commitment was, wherever you were in Jan, you weren't going to be there in Feb, I made it fun, I made it exciting, made people curious. And I guess around space, my reflection today was just like thinking about what worked and what didn't work. The tagline for that, space matters. Of course, we all know space matters, but it's sort of an intuitive yes, but why? So I was reflecting on it today. Well, to me, space operates at 3 levels. There's sort of physical space, literally, how far am I away from the next fellow human being? Environmental space, how does it feel? How does it sound? And then psychological space, what am I bringing to the place? What does the community permit me to be? To Madeleine's point before, and sort of drawing that all back up in a way when you serve those 3 levels, space becomes sort of policy in disguise. Who comes and gets to participate is completely kind of defined by the environment that you create. And we did it naively, and you realise in hindsight the magical nights when all of those kind of work together. And to James's point before, Brandix was about the venues. Well, in a way, we sort of had the same thinking. I still to this day, in my honest heart, like I think I pretend to be a know-it-all, but truthfully I know nothing. And so we relied on like the knowledge and skills of all these other co-creators, and that's been the core success of GreenUps over the years, was inviting people to kind of come and co-create together. And yeah, so I guess like I'm just having to go back through the slides just because I thought I'd like to start with the origins, but you know, so we've been indoors, outdoors. It's always been green drinking for green thinking, you know, that was our tagline. And there's Pete in the corner, and Amelia, you know, this.
But also you had.
Oh, there's Pete.
It's Pete up the top left there, yeah.
But in your first slide, you had Councillor Jess Miller.
Jess Miller, yeah. So look, these are some big heads. So yeah. So this Councillor Jess Miller, Darren Cass went on to be a major player in green politics. Phil Stubbs ran the Environment Show. That's Leanne Rossler, who at the time was one half of, well, she was the original founder of Dinosaur Design. She actually left Dinosaur Designs because you know, she made a sort of a stand against their environmental credentials, probably, you know, to a direct personal hit to her back, you know, back pocket. But and this is Dave Gravina, a wonderful human being. At the time, was running a business called Digital Eskimo. Was one of the first sort of for-purpose digital studios. Anyway, these cats were, and I think Jess was actually working for Dave. I was mates with Jess, and they used to come up to the Falconer and talk crap. This is a little success shot from the end of the night. And
Is that Chris Dallin at the foreground?
yeah, I mean, there's look, the irony is I had this massive long, so I had to click through hundreds of photos of people's heads and stuff. But anyway, this is the potted summary. Yeah, Costa, like lots of people. I wanted to jump onto like what worked. So we did this. I'm a passionate cyclist, carrying 2 broken ribs from a recent bike riding accident. We never learn. We did a hugely successful night at the. It was in collaboration with City of Sydney and the Bike Advocacy Week. We took over the back garden of the pre-Merivale version of the Alexandria Hotel. And basically we just tore the fence down and let all these people bring their bikes in. We had bike valet parking, and like, I don't know if anyone's a bike rider here, so like it's not a monoculture. There's so many different sort of scenes in biking, you know. You got the mammals, you got the BMXers, you got the hipsters. Anyway, it was just the most exciting sort of blend of people, and you know, we had nerds talking policy, and you know, people talking about like fold-up bikes were going to be the answer to sort of, you know, urban commuting, and of course the fixie, why man, that crap, you know, the geometry's terrible, and it was just a wonderful night. And yeah, so what did we do there? We broke down barriers. We invited all comers. We invited them in with their objects of identity. So, you know, these guys all got to wheel in their bikes and be who they were, and just express. And it was the most delightful, fun evening. I wish I had better pictures. So we recently had a 15-year anniversary. The only reason I have these photos is I asked friends to like send me in. There's so many gaps in the story missing, but you know, this very nostalgia-esque for me. But yeah, lots of fun and just like deep connections. This is a policy guy from the council. This is a bike advocacy dude, just chatting away. So then, this is another fun story. So we've always had a long relationship with the city. They had this like issue with like laneway activation, and just invited us to activate a laneway for a week. And it was just such a fun, ironically I wish I was showing these slides in backwards, because that's a sort of clap happy ending. But we did fun stuff, like rolled out an acre of turf across the lane, and like brought in like, you know, just accoutrement and artworks and DJs and music. And we never had a bigger GreenUps than that night, because we got the GreenUps crew there, but then we got like 1,000 city people, because they just saw this like crazy thing happening in the street. And this was almost 20 years ago, like, yeah, it probably was 20 years ago, so 2010. Anyway, and we're talking sustainability with these people who've hardly sort of heard the term before. It was somebody else's problem. And, you know, it was fun. Clover was there, the city types were there, we had all this little like art around, and just a really fun project. And I guess, why am I proud of this one? I think it's the blending, you know. That's part of the other thing that GreenUps has always prided itself on, was like, we make these fun nights, and you know, one night it was like finance, and so all the finance nerds would come along, and then, you know, they'd have a fun time and get really pissed and go, oh, this is great, I've never heard of you GreenUps people before, and so they'd then come on to the next one. But the next one was about, like, you know, community gardens. So you had all these, like, finance people there going, oh, I'm feeling a bit fish out of water now because cost is up, going, you know, put your hands in the dirt, which is, everyone should, you know. And so we just sort of dragged all of these, like, random people through these different evolutions, exploring different lenses through the concept of sustainability. And yeah, you know, like I said, we recently had our 15-year anniversary, and I was so delighted by who claimed it, you know, like who came along and went, man, this thing was important to me. And yeah, like GreenUps, I was never brave enough to make my career. It was always my little side hobby. For that reason, it's probably had a sort of, you know, relatively slow, flown below the radar, but, you know, we've had our big moments. And yeah, I guess place and space, it's powerful. And, you know, done right, you can bring incredibly diverse people together, level them and get to their truths. And yeah, nothing ever gave me more pleasure than moments where I would look around at GreenUps and go, oh, I was not expecting those two people to be talking to each other right now. That's really freaking cool. Yeah, so nostalgia and pride out right now, but we have sort of rebooted the brand. We're going to do another GreenUps in a month.
This one here?
It is going to be here. It's either going to be here or at UTS, but I think it's going to be here because I'm sick of waiting for a yes. So thank you to Mikey for being an eternal backstop for so many in this community. You are a solid human being. Much respect to you. Thank you for creating this space. Thank you for allowing me to bring my shambolic craziness and be part of this family. And yeah, hat tip to you, Jerry, for making space matter. Yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Look, what I might do, if you're okay with it, now when Jeremy and I were sort of thinking around, I said, imagine a night where you could go but still get home on time. You know what I mean? Because you've got kids or any of those things like that, and you're not sort of taking some deposits out of the home emotional bank account, I like to call it. You can put those back in. So we want to respect, you know, that little bit of, you know, time piece. But I'd love it if maybe the three people who gave a short talk maybe come sit up here. I'd love to provide this opportunity for the audience to ask something of our three panelists. And let's say we'll give it, you know, 3 questions maybe or something like that. So yeah, so I'll do a little bit of, there we go, I'll do a bit of mic running. Check. Oh no, Jeremy, we're away. So I'll run the mic to the audience.
So we do a lot of too many lumens, less lumens, more lumens. You know, there's a lot of lumen conversation. So the way I say it to people is, when there's no right way, there's every way. So when there's...
Jeremy, nice word. Nice. Appropriate.
My heart rate actually lowers, that's what happens. Yeah. Oh, I'm really happy now. I'm circumstantially happy. When there's no right way, there's every way. Okay? So that's wonderful in concept, but what does that mean in reality? It means having lots of conversation and never being that there's something wrong, that there's something opposing that you have. Like, it's not wrong. I wouldn't even call it trauma. Okay, you like things tidy. Now, you're welcome to call it generational trauma, and maybe it is. But maybe you just like things tidy. Or you like your own possessions, and you care that they're not ruined. And maybe he hates things. But that doesn't mean they're opposing. It doesn't mean one's right or wrong. It means that there's variations on the theme. And actually, great music is made with variations on the theme. So if you can be in full communication with one another and it's never right or wrong or opposing, then anything's possible.
Amen. Right,
I think this is the mic we had. Yes. Anyone else would like to ask something of our wonderful panel?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. You go. Yeah.
All right. The question is, if anything were possible, what do you see us doing here? And then when we do our video reviews, we send them to clients, and we say, what did you love about it? What are you not so sure of? I'm open to these things as well. But I love the question, my favorite one, when I've sent a video to a client and they look at it afterwards, is what if anything were possible? And it doesn't even have to be about this space necessarily, but I'm just, calling out that for a bit of imagination here for a moment. Of course I want to know for here and for me, but maybe for us is actually what I really mean.
Can I answer that question? Because I'm actually going to go off what Madeleine was just talking about there, which is being present. But present and claiming the universe as being now. So, we live in a city where our ego is a motivation for pretty much everything, but like every day, all of us. And then the absolute opposite of that is not looking over your shoulder. So your success will be about how you interpret the people who inhabit your space, that you've invited them in, and whether or not you like it or not, if you give it energy, then that universe will sprout genius because it's given space. So it's really interesting because it's all about removing yourself from the negative space being the empty space. As soon as you remove yourself from it, you allow everything else to be celebrated. And we as people who run spaces, my kryptonite is hubris, and sometimes it hits me, and all of a sudden I wonder why it's going to shit, and then all of a sudden I realise it's because I put the ego in it, and as soon as I step away from it, everyone else is brilliant and not me, and then it becomes what it's meant to be.
Yes, thank you. That's so well said. I would just go, I think that's the theme for all three of us. We just know that we're full of shit and don't know shit and allow shit to happen. Like, for real, for real though, and it's the absence of who we are that allows for the magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just checking, was that full of shit, don't know shit?
And let shit happen.
Let shit happen, okay.
That's the quotable of today.
Yeah, something, that's triggered not to write down.
TM.
Now, so we've got one more question, and if we file one over to Ben at this side, I think it sort of rounds it off, but I'll pass it over. Excuse me.
Thanks. I actually wanted to ask you all, so we'll start maybe with Ben. Can you tell us one thing you are really excited about, each of you?
I'm such a black hat, I'm such a neg. But I am excited about possibility. The world is such a rich and deeply possible space. So I think, to your point, Madeleine, certainly for GreenUps, the magic happened when you sort of surrendered to the greater energy. And my learning as an organizer is following up on the opportunity, because these moments of collaboration, these engagements, these people you come through, you've got to be brave and grab the opportunity, because it's that there's a moment of connection, there's a moment of opportunity, and if you don't seize the day, ships pass in the night. And I reflect a lot on we had a lot of great moments, but there were also a lot of other cool things that could have happened. And what's that expression? There's something like, you've got to be prepared to be spontaneous, if that makes sense. I'm paraphrasing, but I don't mind that variant of it, You've got to be ready to be spontaneous. Yeah.
That was good, Ben.
Well done. Okay, I'm going to be super dark.
It's the problem, it's a dark time.
Yeah, because I'm actually thinking the new venue, I want to call it World's End.
Okay.
Only because...
the restaurant end of the universe.
Yeah, but it's also more about what happens when we're giving definitive time, and so what are we going to do before our extinction? And if that is definitive, what are we going to do right now? And that's not pathetic, and it's not about loss. It's about action. It's about going, oh, okay, well, if we're going to fade into existence, what is those final moments together? And also, what are we going to hold as precious? So that's, for me, that's the artwork, but it's also about how much risk we're going to take, and the beautiful Melancholia film where, the meteorite is coming to, hit you in the face. What are you going to do in that moment, that beautiful moment of life, facing death? Sorry, that's really dark, but in actual fact, that's the answer to the question.
Well done. Now, being the, let's say, someone who's entering their golden years in life, was probably me who said to Jeremy, hey, we need to do something where people can get home on time. But we did advertise that. So I think just on that moment, I'm going to ask Jeremy to come up. Jeremy's going to wrap our night out, but I just want to say, hey, what a wonderful group of people to talk tonight. And look, I've had a 2-day event. I've just finished up at 4 this afternoon, out of there by 5, caught the Uber across. A little bit fried. I'm very unfried now because hearing this, it's a good energy, good vibe, great speakers. So thank you for showing up, thank you for smiling, and so thank you to our panel. I'm going to hand over to Jeremy, who will sort of wrap out our evening. Yeah, there we go. Give him a round of applause.
Thanks. Look, this idea of poetry and the plumbing comes to me, and I think I'm better at the plumbing side of things. I like the tinkering and making things work, but I'm not really good at the poetry. But you guys, there was some amazing poetry, and you created some amazing spaces, and space really matters. Thanks, guys.